it was like an episode of House. When I was in the hospital, I had a team of 7 doctors who were just, their sole mission was to try to figure out what was wrong with me. And so that's when I found out that, well, I didn't find out because I was completely unconscious. They had on so many, like this, like souped up cocktail of like pain meds. I don't remember anything, but basically in that period of time, that's when they found out that I, contracted MRSA, and it had gotten in my bloodstream. And when that happens, when MRSA gets in your bloodstream, like, it's fatal. Like, it's a really short amount of time, like, between it getting in your system and, people dying. Like, I think, like, one doctor told me it was, like, maybe, like, 48 hours maximum, like, that people live with this in their system. And they learn from, like, all these tests that they've been taking, like, it finally makes sense once they know that I have what those tests meant. And I've had this in my system for about, like, 6 or 7 days at this point. And the other part of this that they figure out was that the reason people die so quickly is once it's flowing through your blood, the first thing it attaches to is what it's circulating through the most, which is your heart and your lungs. And so what it'll do is the MRSA will, attach to your lungs or your heart and just start eating it, and you die. Like, you can't live without your heart and your lungs. So the muscles will fail at a certain point and you just die. And so this had been in my system for like a week or so at this point. And what was going on was it had been eating, like, instead of attaching to a major organ, it had attached to my, like, just this area of my leg. I don't even know what it grabbed first, if it was muscle or bone or what. But it went to this area of my leg, and that's all the pain I had been experiencing for so long, which, I still never really figured out why 3 weeks worth of pain, but over only a week of it, in my system. I don't know how that works out. But, so that was the pain I was experiencing. It was actually, the infection was eating my muscle. Like, it was actually, like, disintegrating. Like, my muscle was being eaten inside of my leg. You couldn't see this, like, going on the outside, but they finally took an MRI where they could see all of it happening. And then, it was eating muscle and bone. So it had gotten through the muscle and through the bone it got to the point where it was, like, inside of the bone pushing its way out. So the pain I was feeling was the bones literally separating from itself. So, which is, like, they described to me as, like, like when your femur, fractures, that's supposed to be, like, the crazy, painfulest thing or whatever. Yeah. They said what was happening was I was experiencing, like, a painfully, like, excruciatingly slow femur fracture. So, it was extremely painful. And then the next task was figuring out how to fix it, because it was this, they called it, like, some mutated strand or something that they had never even seen in America before. Like, they don't even know what this, like, bacteria is. They don't know how, like, what antibiotic to use to treat it because it's so strong. They ended up using this medicine that they only use for, like, cancer patients or something. Like, I think it had to be an antibiotic, I guess, but, like, so they started me on that, and I was responding, and my, all the tests that looked bad were starting to look better or whatever. And so I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and once I started, after about a week of me responding to the antibiotic, they decided that they could send me home, and I had a PICC line in my arm. And this was the first weeks of school. Like, I'm supposed to be at Georgia State at this point. Like, so the second week that I was in the hospital was the first week of classes. And then I come back, they take me home, and I'm not even able to walk. I can't even get myself to the bathroom. I can't, like, lean myself up in my bed. And this is, when this first week that I'm home is the second week of classes. So, they tell me, the coaches, contact my mom. No one's talking to me, obviously. I'm just a crackhead at this point. Like, so they contact my mom and say, like, there's no pressure whatsoever. We totally understand this was a crazy situation. Like, she almost died. And we just wanted to, like, there's no pressure for you to come back at all. But we just want to let you know that the possibility is on the table that if she can find a way to come back to school next week, which is the third week of classes, we've talked to her teachers, we've talked to compliance and everyone, she would still be eligible to play in the spring. Like, she would still be eligible to be, a part of the team, basically. Like, playing wasn't really, it had no idea if that was even going to happen. But I would be able to be on the team and, be able to do school for the year if I could show up within a week, and learn how to walk within a week, and, figure out how I'm going to, keep my eyes open and listen in class, in a week. I got to figure out how to do this. So, miraculously, God helps me recover, so quickly that week. It wasn't even until the third day home that I was able to, walk to the bathroom by myself, which was a struggle. It wasn't okay, I can finally walk to the bathroom. It was this is my trip to the bathroom for the day by myself. So I got a lot better, and we kind of talked it out to where if I could just get to the point where I could let my grandma wheel me around to my classes, if we could just get to the point where it was if I was able to just tolerate being in a wheelchair all day, then we would try it. We would go back to school, and I, decided to give it a shot, and I spent, basically the first semester in a wheelchair, my grandma wheeling me around, not doing any softball stuff, but just, going to classes and trying to keep up with school. It really did take most of my time just to be able to keep up with the normal stuff. And then I would go to the training room every day, and they would administer, my antibiotics through my PICC line that I still had. So I had that for 8 weeks and was in the wheelchair for that, most of that time. And that was welcome to Georgia State. I'm just here in a wheelchair, don't know my team, don't know anybody here, just me and my grandma, exploring for a semester. And then I get off my antibiotics. I finished that period, and this, everything looks good. The infection is gone, so I start trying to ease back into ball and everything. I've been walking around for a little while and start trying to hit, and we're at this point where it's practices are kind of slack because it's the end of the semester, and so I just started doing stuff and working back through the Christmas break to try to do all this and come back in the spring feeling good, feeling excited. I'm still having a hard time getting back in shape, but I'm excited about it, and I experience a lot of leg pain still in the stuff that I'm doing. And so I, told my trainer that I was feeling the pain, still, that it was, it was troublesome. It was a little scary because it felt like it did in the beginning, when it first started showing up, right after Puerto Rico. So, the first thought that I didn't want to have was it's back. So, we go to the doctor and have it checked out, and the first thing they do is just take an x-ray, and it was just, the weirdest thing I've ever seen. They take this x-ray of my leg, and there's just something that we had never even considered after I, got off my antibiotics and the infection was gone. But when the infection was gone, it was killed, it was gone, and when it's gone, there's nothing else there. It had eaten everything else. So there's this, we look at this x-ray, and I have this, long, the part of, my hip socket is just this, it looks like the white, fuzzy, TV screen. It's supposed to be, x-rays are white, and it's just, not even, a solid, anything there. And then, later down, in the, shaft part of my bone, there's this, huge, hole, you get, the bone part is straight, and then there's this, onion peel, part. And they're saying that's where the infection was pushing out. So I was, trying to play softball. I'm running around sliding, diving, trying to be, hardcore again with this, huge hole in my bone, which was, my doctor freaked out, instantly and said it was so, dangerous. And so she sat me out for the season. Because, you're not supposed to play when you have, basically this, she said we were going to treat it like a fractured, bone. And, so that was a long recovery. So she just told me I'm done for the season, and there goes, God sits me out again, and it was just I looked at it as a second chance to be hurt, to be in that position where I'm not playing, but I'm still part of this team. I'm still here for some reason, which is to glorify Him, but not sure how. So I try to approach it from a completely different mentality. I'm joyful in, where He has me. I'm joyful in the fact that I still get to, be here to encourage these girls, as a team and stuff like that, and I fully embrace that role this time. Whereas the first time, when I hurt my ankle my sophomore year, it was me, not pity party, but, I'm just bide my time till I can, get better or do something else or whatever. And now this time I took the role of, being joyful about the situation and, being exactly in the circumstances that he put me in. And I don't know, I was just so grateful for the chance to do that again. Well, then also in that second semester at Georgia State, I decided that, I needed fellowship. Like, I needed it. Like, I wanted, I had that at Georgia. I had, the people encouraging me and trying to, like, push me towards faith, even in the times when I wasn't really pushing myself. Like, there were other people pushing me, and it was just, I started to realize that was, lacking, that was missing, and I needed it. And so I just started looking for any kind of fellowship, and there's kind of like another branch off from the story at this point. Like, I see this sign on the side of the sidewalk one day. It says, worship tonight, 7:30. And I was like, boom, I'm there. I don't care. I don't even know anything about this, like, place. I don't know who they are, but worship, Christian, I'm there. Like, So, I show up for worship this night, and everybody was just great. Like, so welcoming, so friendly. They act like, they all just knew me, and I was, like, more than happy to be there, so I just acted like I knew them, too, and, like, it was just really awesome, it was really cool, and, they just built, like, this beautiful relationship between me and all the wonderful people, like, at the BCM, and I've just gotten to experience so much, like, fellowship from them, and so much encouragement from that, but then, also, like, there's another, like, aspect that comes in, I had, after me and Dwight broke up, like, I was just, still struggling through, the, guys, I guess, understanding, like, I don't even know how to say it because I was so, like, confused, I guess, but, just, dealing with guys at all, being in a relationship with guys, just being associated with guys. I still, was in a, like, angry place for what I had lost in Dwight a little bit, but I just really don't even know how to word it, but I still got caught up in lust sometimes. When I was in junior college, it definitely happened, but then as soon as I left there, it just, I was like, that was stupid and idiotic, and I didn't want to do that at all. Like, I was just in this, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I was in that place where I was, like, depending on God and desperate for Him, but also, on another level, just desperate. Like, there were times when I was just confused, and there were just a couple of really inconvenient times where there were guys, like, there in, the moments that I was, like, desperate. So there were still those, I struggled a little bit with the lust, when I was at junior college, but then going back to, I went to Georgia State. Like, after I left the junior college, that was it. Like, guys, I didn't even, like, want to care anymore. Like, I just didn't even want to think about it. It just seemed like too much trouble. Like, I'd been through, like, so much, and I didn't want to experience anything like what I had been through right then, so I just dropped it. Like, I just dropped any thoughts about guys or anything. So then I read this book over the time when I'm just in a wheelchair, hanging out with my grandma and my thoughts. Like, I come across this book that it was about dating. It's called When God Writes Your Love Story, and I just got really into it. I was so psyched. It was like spelling out what God, wants for a relationship, like what God calls for, like, us in relationships and what that looks like and stuff like that. And this was the first time I was hearing some of this stuff. And I was all for it. I was all about it. And I just, I came to the point where that's what, it was about. I wanted Him to write my love story. I didn't want it to be of my own efforts. So I guess my action to, like, show that was to just drop it all together. To be like, that's it. I'm just going to be done with it. I'm going to be a nun for you. I will be single until, like, I'm, 80 or whatever you need me to be. Like, I'm just, as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. Because I don't even want that to be something I'm looking for anymore, to be a distraction. Like, I just let myself, like, just be done with it. Like, just think of guys as brothers, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Like, so that was in December or January when I read this book and come to this just amazing place with God where I just don't even, guys are just obsolete and people there to encourage and be encouraged, but, that's it. Like, relationships they're just not going to let it distract me anymore was the point of it. And then in February, probably just a month later, I meet Jacob. And he is, we met at the BCM, and it's still muddled of how we first started talking, but basically we talked on Facebook messages. He says, hey, my name is Jacob. I'm your brother. If you ever need encouraging or anything, I'm here. And I was like, oh, great. I'm looking for a Bible study. Cool. And he was like, all right, well, great. There's a couple of good ones you can come to. The next one I can think of is this FCA Bible study on Monday. And it's at the freshman loft. It's like, perfect, awesome, I'm there. Where's the freshman loft? I've been in a wheelchair the whole time I've been here. I don't know where anything is. So he was like, well, have you heard of this place called the BCM? And I was like, yeah, I've been there. I went to the worship thingy. This was a week after I had first showed up at the BCM. And I was like, I just went there the other day. I know exactly what you're talking about. So he was like, all right, meet me there and we'll walk together. So I meet him there and we walked to this Bible study, and then the short walk to the study, we started talking about Jesus, and it was just refreshing and encouraging and just so I don't even know how to say it. It's just inspiring to meet someone who was so crazy about God and just wanting what God wants for himself. And, because that's exactly where I was. That's exactly where I wanted to be. I just wanted to be, striving for him, all the time. And I, just hear this guy talking who you can just tell in the way he talks about Jesus as this, beautiful, being. You can just tell. He's all fronts, all stops aside, he's for Jesus. And then we go to this Bible study, and I get to hear his input, and I'm just amazed at my first real example of I guess a godly guy my age, that I could really relate to, that I feel someone who's at the same place as me and actually being able to, experience faith, in the same place as me. And so then after the Bible study, he offers to walk me back, and we walk back and just keep talking about Jesus. It just went on, and then we were both so encouraged that we, decided to have dinner again another time after that. And we, as soon as he invited me to dinner, all the little red flags went up in my head. I was like, wait, this is exactly the thing that I was saying. I'm not gonna do anymore. I'm not gonna be distracted. I'm not gonna, let this be just, oh, he's so dreamy. Let's hang out, kind of thing. I was so I prayed again, constantly. I was God, I just need you to, I need you to let me just see him as a brother. I need you to help me, not ruin this potential for a really good, encouraging relationship by letting my, thoughts get in the way of whatever they might be. So I just prayed that we could just be, encouraged by one another, and that it would just be, a godly relationship, friend relationship, And so we go to dinner this one time, and once again, it was all about Jesus. I couldn't get over how every time I talked to this guy, we just, just couldn't talk enough about all the good stuff that he, had done for both of us, and that, we were so excited to be at this place and just following him. And so we just, started hanging out more and more and more, and I eventually ended up, dating this guy. We just finally, we both fought the, title of dating and the, idea of being boyfriend, girlfriend, because we just didn't, like I said, I pledged not to do that, and then we just, we ended up dating. I don't know how else to say it. God just kept showing us, through the constantly putting us together in situations, the constant encouragement through one another, that this was of him, that this was not something that, this wasn't like the things we experienced in the past where we were making something happen that shouldn't be. This was something where we were fighting something that he was making be, So we finally just one day decided to embrace it. And, gosh, as far as, ball and everything else, at this point, I'm in my next season, and I broke my hand. It's broken right now, but everything's going well. I fully embrace, everything God has done for me, and all the, softball injuries and different, changing of plans and not knowing of of transitions in my life and stuff, he has just built so much perseverance up in me. Like, not boasting at all, but just looking back from where I was to where I am, I can't imagine, like, that I ever would have been at this place where I could just trust him with so much, where I could just be so, like, reliant on him and everything that he does and everything that he has in me. And I fully embrace, like, the character that he is, like, building up in me and the changes he's doing in my life. And his glory is what, like, screams out of all of it. Because, as I've said along this whole way, it hasn't been of me. If anything, it's been in spite of me. Like, every single step along the way has been in spite of my best efforts. And God has just met me where I am, like, every step of the way, and gently, like, taught me and, gently pushed me forward to just be in a relationship with him and just, grow more in love with him all the time. And I've grown in, just being in a relationship with him and loving him and knowing him and talking to him and reading his word and, experiencing him with others and seeking to, just glorify his name and present his message, like, to others. There's just so much that has happened in this long, like, crazy, obviously this has been a really long video, like, this just topsy-turvy, like, things couldn't have happened, things that just couldn't happen than his, grace. So, it's just been a great ride, and I just am so excited for everything else he has for me in the future. And, like I said in the beginning, I don't know that I'll even, like, live another, day. I don't even know that I'll be here to, back this up tomorrow. Like, I don't know if it'll be, like, a one-day thing or a 50-year thing or whatever it is. I just fully embrace just all the work he's doing in me, and that he's let me be a part of just his wonderful plan, like his glory. I have no other, like, words to describe it. Just let me know him and be a part of him and be in a relationship with him. And so whatever that means, whatever that has in store, I'm sure there'll be plenty more, like, loops and turns and, like, not knowing, crazy things happening, but I embrace it and I'm ready for it, and, I just seek him all the rest of the way. So that's pretty much it. It's my testimony. Yeah.